Such an honor to be here with all of you tonight. 11 years ago, I had the privilege of standing on this very stage for the inaugural TEDx event at Carrollwood Day School. I remember how surreal it felt, how meaningful it was to be asked to be here and speak with you, especially at that point in my life. I titled that talk Surviving Change, and I meant it very literally at the time. That talk didn't come from a place of confidence or clarity. It came from a moment where my life had been abruptly interrupted. I had been in a serious car accident that left me with 17 broken bones. In an instant, everything I took for granted, my independence, my mobility, my routine, was gone. My recovery wasn't dramatic or inspiring in the way we like to often tell stories. It was slow. It was repetitive, and it required showing up every single day, even when progress felt invisible. I missed out on sports for my junior year, which for someone whose identity at that point in my life in large part had been shaped by athletics, was an incredibly difficult loss. There were days where the gap between where I wanted to be and where I was felt impossibly wide. But recovery taught me something that has stayed with me ever since. Progress doesn't come from big moments. It comes from consistency, from doing the hard, unglamorous work when no one's watching. Eventually, I made it back. I returned to the soccer field my senior year, not because it was guaranteed, but because I did the work. And that season remains one of the most proud experiences of my life, not because of wins or stats, but because I earned the opportunity to be there. I also owe a great deal of that return to Coach Jim Hart, my lifelong soccer coach, whose belief in me and steady expectations have left a lasting impact both on and off the field. And before I go any further, I want to pause and acknowledge two people who played a critical role during that time. I would not have given my original TEDx talk without the encouragement of Sabrina McCartney and Jenna Alpert. They saw potential in me when I was still trying to piece myself together. Their belief gave me the push that I needed to get on this stage when it would have been far easier to stay on the sidelines. And I remain deeply grateful to both of them for that. I'm also profoundly thankful for the education I received here at Carrollwood Day School. I attended CDS from kindergarten through 12th grade. This community shaped how I think, how I communicate, and how I approach challenges. CDS taught me that difficulty is not something to avoid. It's something to engage with, thoughtfully and seriously. That foundation has followed me through every chapter in my life. Looking back now, I see a pattern that I couldn't see at the time. Consistently, the most difficult things I've ever done have become the moments I'm most proud of. Not because they looked impressive from the outside, but because they required commitment when quitting was easier. That pattern continued well beyond high school, still carries me today. Throughout law school, I intentionally sought out difficult paths, not because I wanted to prove something to anyone else, but because I know that that is where growth lives. Those experiences were demanding. They required sacrifice, discipline, and persistence. And once again, the reward was not the title nor the result. It was the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that you didn't take the easy way out. This isn't about achievements at all. It's a universal principle. When you consistently choose effort over comfort, pride follows naturally. None of that happens in isolation. I've been carried through every difficult season by people who refuse to let me walk alone. My parents, Alice and Dan, who modeled resilience and integrity long before I had the language for it. My sister and her husband, Patrick, whose support and perspective remind me of what really matters. My brother, Hayden, who keeps me grounded and honest. My girlfriend, Natalie, whose encouragement and steadiness make even the hardest days feel manageable. And to Marcy and Sal Cuno, who have been like second parents to me, and they've never let me settle for anything but less than the best. I'm equally grateful to friends, the kind who show up when things aren't polished, the kind who tell you the truth when it's uncomfortable, the kind who remind you of who you are when you start questioning yourself. Community does not just make success sweeter, it makes difficulty survivable. Faith has also been central for me, particularly in moments where effort didn't immediately produce results. Faith doesn't eliminate hardship, but it gives hardship meaning. It reminds me that showing up matters, even when outcomes aren't guaranteed, and it shows that perseverance has value beyond immediate payoff. I thank God every single day for the endless blessings that I've received. We live in a world today that subtly discourages action. We feel constantly observed, constantly evaluated, so we hesitate, we delay. We wait until we feel ready, confident, or approved before we act. And in doing so, we avoid the very things that would move us forward. In the middle of the 2nd century, Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, put it better than I ever could in this fundamental truth when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In our world, too often, what stands in the way is not a lack of opportunity, but a fear of being seen, judged, or wrong. Facing that fear is how progress happens. We talk a lot about the risk of failure. We talk far less about the risk of inaction. Not acting feels safe, carries a quiet cost. The person that you postpone becoming does not disappear. The standards that you don't hold yourself to do not vanish. They accumulate. And at some point, each of us has to decide whether we're going to be active participants in our lives or passive observers. You either step forward or you stay where you are. No one is going to take responsibility for your direction. So stop acting based on who you think you are today and act like the person you want to become. Take that version of yourself seriously even before the world does. That means taking pride in your work, no matter what it is. Not because it's flashy, not because it's visible, but because excellence in small things compounds. In a world full of shortcuts, care and genuine effort stand out. It also means doing what you say you'll do, especially when it's inconvenient. That's where grit is built. That's where self-respect comes from. To me, grit is the most important trait we can develop in the modern world. We don't control how fast the world changes, but we do control how we meet it. Grit is not toughness for show, but it's consistency. It's returning to the work day after day, even when progress feels slow. 11 years ago, I stood on this stage talking about surviving change. Today, I know that survival is just the beginning. Growth comes from participation, from choosing action over fear, from leaning on your faith, your family, and your friends, and from showing up again and again, especially when it's hard. Because in the end, the biggest risk is not failure. It's never stepping forward. There's a quote I live by from President Theodore Roosevelt that I think sums up that risk well. In discussing the proverbial man or woman in the arena, he said, "If he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." So my ask is simple. It's not dramatic. Identify one thing in your life that you've been postponing because it feels uncomfortable or uncertain, and take one honest step toward it. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Just take the step and do it with effort, care, and pride. And before I close, I want to acknowledge our speakers that you'll hear from tonight. Each of them has made a choice to step forward and be visible. In a world where it's easier to stay on the sidelines, they chose to get in the arena. That decision alone deserves recognition. I'm certain you'll enjoy. Thank you.